A FAM production. Furniture and mattress. FAM.news.
Hey, it's Kinsley. This is the Dos Marcos Show. And how could Section 27 of the Merchant Marine Act of 1920 be sabotaging the supply chain in the U.S.? And what does China's COVID-0 crackdown mean for you and mean for the supply chain? And then finally, after navigating all these supply chain issues, you get people into the store. How are you going to handle showrooming shoppers and convert them into customers? The Dos Marcos Show begins in 60 seconds.
Driven entrepreneurs, listen up. It's time to team up with Nationwide Marketing Group, North America's most successful network of independent retailers. You'll gain access to programs and services that level the playing field between you and the national chains. Industry-leading digital marketing, increased buying power, exclusive networking events, and of course, their awesome learning platform. Nationwide Marketing Group is the business partner that helps you get results and stay ahead of the competition. Take the first step today and visit nationwidegroup.org.
Do you want more sales in 3 easy clicks? Yeah, it starts right now at doorcounts.com. With a completely redesigned user interface, gathering data has never been easier. Click number 1, your salespeople connect with the customer as they walk through the door. Click 2 is the outcome. Click 3, key performance metrics, right there on your phone from anywhere at any time. Now your salespeople can spend their time selling, and DoorCounts is going to gather the data you need to make your business better. Start right now at doorcounts.com.
Welcome to the Dos Marcos Show with Mark Kinsley and Mark Quinn, where mattress and furniture leaders gather to grow, get the inside scoop, tell stories, and take tequila shots.
Uno, dos, tequila!
Welcome aboard. Here's your passport to a planet filled with the mattress industry's brightest minds and biggest ideas. Meet your guides.
I'm Mark Kinsley, President and CEO of Englander.
And I'm Mark Quinn, co-founder of Spink & Co. and VP of Sherwood Bedding.
Together, they are Dos Marcos.
The galaxy's greatest mattress podcast has liftoff in 3, 2, 1.
I promise Quinn is kind of, sort of here. How about, let's make him appear. You're not going to hear him this trip. I think he's on a plane right now. But there, if you're watching, there he is. In all of his cartoon glory. Hey, it's Kinsley. This is the Dos Marcos Show. We have launched, as you know, into the furniture side of covering the business with Ray Alagreza, the godfather of the furniture industry. He has so much knowledge and so many connections in this space. And already out of the gates, he's been dropping knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb. And so on today's show, we're going to do something a little bit different because we've all experienced the new household word, which is supply chain. I never thought in my life that I would hear kids and people that have nothing to do with logistics start mentioning supply chain, but it's here and it's really not going away. And so we have a series of articles up on fam.news that I think are really insightful, one of which is written by Ray Alagreza, about this antiquated act from 1920, Section 27 of the Merchant Marine Act, and how it is potentially sabotaging the supply chain here in the U.S. and maybe even making it less expensive to ship goods from Asia than it does from state to state here in the United States. How is that possible? We've got audio stories taking a deeper dive today, and then following that up, China is on a COVID-0 crackdown. Cargo workers are having to quarantine for 21 days. What's the analysis of this and how's it going to affect the supply chains? And then, hey, you get everybody into the store, you've managed supply chain issues, you have goods for them to buy, and you see them showrooming on their phone. How do you convert showrooming shoppers into customers? A great piece by Alex Milstein up on fam.news right now. We have the full audio story for you today on the show. I hope you have a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas ahead. Get to all your shopping done. And want to thank everybody that contributed to Help One Now in our giving campaign. But let's get it started right here on the Dos Marcos Show.
Is it time to sink the Jones Act? Hey fam, it's Adrienne. I hope you had a wonderful holiday break. We are going to dip our toe into maritime law and discuss a little-known act which you probably aren't familiar with. When the topic is the ongoing congestion at the LA and the Los Angeles ports, the title Any Port in a Storm, The Slow Boat from China, or Ship of Fools might each be an appropriate headline. The situation has been so bad for so long that hoping to get things moving, the Biden administration has called for a 24/7 activity at the ports to move products off of the ship and into the stores in time for the holiday selling season. And while recent reports show that there has been some progress, according to the Marine Exchange, just under 180 ships were at the port of LA and Long Beach, with the vast majority of them waiting their turn to dock and unload. Threats to fine the ocean freight carriers taking too long to unload are still floating in the air, but in my opinion, and this is according to Ray Allegreza, the author of the article, a 100-day fine for these big boys amounts to literally nothing. It's pocket change. By now, we've all heard the reasons for the backlog. The list includes COVID-19, labor shortages, shortages of trucks and drivers, too few dock workers, a disruption of the global supply chain, spiking consumer demand, and the list goes on and on. But as they love to say on the Home Shopping Network, but wait, there's more. Since I am phrase borrowing, let me remind you of this one too. Quote, we have met the enemy and he is us, end quote. We may be taking on water at our West Coast ports due to a mix of some recent and not so recent legislation. In California, for example, the state's AB 5 law, which was passed back in January, essentially redefined some of the workers previously listed as independent contractors. Simply put, AB 5 redefines the employment status of some workers formerly classified as, quote, independent contractors, end quote, and reclassifies them as employees. According to the industry observers close to the ports, this has put the brakes on many California-based independent truckers because they're now labeled as employees who might have previously stepped up to help. And here's another major roadblock, and the one that I haven't talked about much, is the Jones Act. Ever heard of it? The Jones Act, which was named after Senator Wesley Jones, the legislator who sponsored it, was passed in 1920 and was put forth to protect American merchant marines, sailors, and the ship's crew. Which there's nothing wrong with that, right? Right. But as I warned earlier, wait, there's more. The Jones Act, which is actually Section 27 of the Merchant Marine Act of 1920, requires that any goods shipped by water between 2 points in the U.S. must be transported on a U.S.-built, U.S.-flagged, and at least 75% U.S. crewed vessel. The results, many observers argue, is that it makes it less expensive to ship goods from Asia than it does from the States to state here. Citing energy as just one example, a recent story in Forbes commented that, quote, East and West Coast refiners find it cheaper to get oil from foreign sources instead of from the U.S. itself. It's cheaper for New England to get natural gas from Trinidad and Tobago or even Siberia than from the U.S. Gulf Coast. So with that in mind, let me float this one by you. Let's forget about sinking the Bismarck. Maybe it's time to sink the Jones Act, along with other legislation that is directly or indirectly putting our ports at risk.
And that's your deep dive on this piece of legislation that passed back in 1920. Who would have thought it would have that big of an impact here a century later? And now we head into 21-day cargo worker quarantines. What is going on in China in the COVID-0 crackdown? And what could it mean for the future of the supply chain?
The 7-week quarantine goes into effect in China. So China, being alarmed by an increase in the new cases of COVID-19 last month, created a new painful kink in an already dysfunctional supply chain by implementing a 7-week mandatory quarantine for cargo vessels and their crews hoping to return to China. According to the sources close to the action, even cargo vessels that had refreshed their crews in other ports other than China will still have to wait a mandatory 14 days before being allowed to dock there. In attempts to be compliant, most cargo vessels were forced to reroute their ships, which further added time delays, additional cost, and other constraints to an already severely challenged supply chain. The latest developments were prompted by Guy Platten, who's an executive with the International Chamber of Shipping, a group populated by ship operators and owners, to observe, quote, any restrictions to ship operations have an accumulative impact on the supply chain and causes real disruptions, end quote. In smaller countries, while disruptive, a move such as this would likely be seen as a tempest in a teapot. But with the footprint as large as China has, and as the world's largest exporter, this could be an entirely new point of pain. As it makes clear it will administer a strict COVID-19 zero policy, observers say that the country is enforcing the policy with measures some have called borderline brutal. Terrence Zhao, who's the managing director of the Shanghai Marine Services, has confirmed that Chinese workers on cargo vessels are currently required to quarantine for 21 days before re-entering the country. But before they do, they must also spend an additional 14 days at their port of arrival, followed by an additional 2-week quarantine before returning to their homes and families. Earlier, thousands of factory workers were virtually held in lockdown at the factories, day and night. Stories of government roadblocks, schools being shut down, flights and train services canceled, and other equally stringent methods abound. Recently, Mongolia locked nearly 10,000 tourists, in hotels for 2 weeks in hopes of quelling a new outbreak of the virus. This was followed by a handful of drugstores in Beijing losing their business credentials taken away for selling medicine to customers without entering their contact information in a government-mandated virus tracking database. Perhaps the biggest roundup of citizens occurred a few weeks ago when local authorities rounded up more than 34,000 people visiting the Shanghai Disneyland and ordered them to undergo mandatory testing for the COVID virus. This unyielding and unilateral enforcement of China's COVID-19 zero policy, both in-country and at its ports, may very well help reduce the spread of the virus in China, but it will do little to put the global supply chain on the road to recovery anytime soon.
Excellent insights there from Ray Allegreza about what's actually happening in country in China. It is something that's not often in our field of view. So thanks for taking a deeper dive and helping us understand that better. And now something we want to help you understand better, finally here on the show today. How do you convert those showrooming shoppers staring at their phones into customers in your retail environment? It can be done. And Alex Milstein had a great piece on this up on fam.news.
How to handle showrooming shoppers and convert them to customers. And I have a question for you to ponder. Would it surprise you to find out that more than 60% of shoppers use their smartphones when they're in a store? This is known as showrooming, if you didn't know there was a name for it, and it's quite the common practice. While it's still a challenge for retailers to overcome, it's not nearly the problem that it was just 5 years ago. Today, retailers have learned how to educate their salespeople, offer personalized service, and even price match to beat the competition. Jared Simon, who's the owner of Simon's Furniture, Mattresses, and Appliances, located in Franklin, Massachusetts, says that if a customer finds a lower price, they will match it. But he says, our prices are so good that you won't find a better price for the same goods. Educated salespeople that can explain the value of the purchase is also a great advantage when it comes to showrooming. Speaking with Greg Gent, who's the owner of Discount Mattresses Outlets, said that, I'm sure showrooming happens, but for us it seems like a rarity. We have an extremely high closing ratio, and we basically explain how someone would have to be nuts to buy a mattress online. When you mention things like the inconsistency as the models change, the service after the sale being unpredictable with a 1-800 number, having to deal with donations on exchanges, supporting the community by buying from a local business, they'll basically agree that they want no part of that, and that's why they're buying local. The retailer that will win at this game will be the one that plays along and creates a seamless marriage between their in-store experience and the website. Offer your phone number to help with the at-home buying decisions and explain that a customer will get from the in-person deal. More time and value, quicker deliveries, and no return fees or the hassle of returns to an e-commerce site. And think about this. With information at people's fingertips through their phones and tablets, over 50% of consumers say that they seek sales staff holding tablets because it gives them instant access to information. This is an extremely important point that cannot be underscored enough. If you equip your sales team with tablets and customers do flock to them, the sales associate can help the customer compare prices, determine delivery cost, and so much more. Technology is here to stay, and the sooner that you embrace it and learn how to work with it, the more successful your business will be.
And that's a roundup of some of the audio stories up on fam.news for you today. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe. Make sure that you become a member of the fam, because when you do, you get our #1 Amazon best-selling audiobook, Come Back to Bed, completely free as the audiobook version, and that exclusive research we did with Nationwide Marketing Group. You get that deck for free as well whenever you become a member of the fam. Just go over to fam.news. You can scroll down all kinds of different places there to become a member. And we look forward to getting more closely connected with you as we head into the holiday seasons. Hopefully, in the new year, we will see some of these supply chain issues we talked about on the show today start to shake out. Happy selling, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and get connected to us on your iTunes app, on your podcast app, or if you listen on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, be sure to subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.
You can bounce on it. Yeah, bounce with it, bounce with it. Bounce with it, bounce with it. All right. What is a hybrid? It's like peanut butter jelly, peanut butter chocolate. Hybrid so tight, there's no way that you could topple it. Hybrid on my wrist, that's a calculator watch. We add ourselves together and we take it up a notch.
Got the airflow, yo, keep you cool as it get. Visco foam alone to make you drip sweat. Get a hybrid mattress, yes, you'll get better rest. Cool and comfortable,
Hybrid like a sweater vest.
you know the game, we're ahead of the sun. Cause the two of us together are way better than one. Cause I'm cool as ice, and I'm hot like a heater. Bounce by the ounce, now we got it by the liter.
Well, you take a spring and you wrap it up right. You can sleep so smooth or bounce all night.
Yeah.
Put two together, get a whole lot more. Get the feel of the comfort core.
You can bounce on it.
Lay back, you don't have to practice. It's the best thing to happen to your mattress.
Yeah.
Get together to do it like I did. Everybody get hybrid.
If you want somebody to get in your vicinity, you probably want to feel a little bit of a hybridity. Foam alone, out of 5, maybe 1 star. Springs and foam, we're taking care of that lumbar. Mad back support, the best way to shack up or just get rest that won't mess your back up. Like a hot chick mixed with a particle physicist or a mullet. Party in the back of the business. Best of both worlds like Mars and Venus. The ultimate hybrid, nothing short of genius.
Keeping it loose while keeping it tight. We can make you sleep or play all night. Put two together, get a whole lot more. Get the feel of the comfort core.
You can bounce on it.
No stopping when the beat gets played back. Springs keep it popping, foam keeps it laid back. Party over here, get invited. Everybody get hybrid.
Listen, doesn't matter if your kitchen is charming when your bedroom's the most important part of the apartment. What kind of bed do you keep back there? Does your girl wanna chill on a beanbag chair? Hell no! You need springs and foam, cause if that bowling ball don't bounce, you'll be sleeping alone. And if the bed don't react, then you can't get low. We got the type of bounce that won't spill your Merlot.
So stick with us and you'll get rewarded.
Cause I'm so gentle and I'm so supportive.
Hybrid is where the magic is.
And we just killed a song about mattresses.